This is the final testing of a Ciansui 5000A, which has pretty much been rebuilt. This is for tag number 41467. This item came into the shop very ill, essentially not functional, and in addition to requiring most of these decade-old items need electrolytics replaced, it also had a blown channel, so we had to replace some output transistors on one channel. Oh, all the switches and controls have been aligned, deoxidized, tuner bearings deoxidized. AM and FM have been aligned. FM is aligned using a technique which is used on the earlier receivers such as this because they had tunable IF stages, and that tuning technique is called a sweep. Very tedious, but that type of IF filter, the LC filters, produce less distortion as compared to the more modern ceramic filters. But it's easy to align a ceramic IF because there are no adjustments. With a LCIF, as this item employs, many tedious adjustments, but distortion is quite low, performs well. I spent easily 8 hours on this, and take a lot of pride in producing a product like this. I'm going to show you what we're going to do here. I'm going to take the light off so we can see some of the test equipment. The item over here, and my software is fighting me here. That's called an oscilloscope. The upper display is going to show us the left channel, and the bottom display is going to show us the right channel. Also, slightly above that into our viewing left will be two horizontal bar graphs, also indicating amplitude of the left channel. The upper is the left and the lower bar graph is the right. That's calibrated in watts and as a reference also decibels. So what we're going to do is run a 400 cycle sine wave into the auxiliary inputs. And as I turn the volume up, I'm going to have to switch over to dummy loads because it will distort the microphone and it will override my voice. We'll also just tune around on FM a little bit. We don't use much of an antenna here. We have a little dipole strung out in the shop, so reception is not optimal by any means, but it performs quite well now. And so what we're going to do is turn it on. Come back down here. So there's our machine. Let's turn it on. And we're going to turn this up a little bit. So as I turn this up, you can probably hear the 400 cycles, and you can see it on the scope. If I turn it up too loud, it's going to distort the microphone and override my voice. And let's get the scope a little better here. And what we're going to do is take the balance and go left to right. If I go to the left, only the upper display on the scope and the bar graph appears. If I go to the right, only the bottom display appears. And so what we're going to do is go back to the center, and I'm going to switch over to the dummy loads because we're going to increase the volume. Dummy loads makes the item work just as if it was in a speaker, converts the audio energy leaving the receiver into heat rather than sound. But it presents the same 8 or 4 ohm load that's switch selectable. I'm also going to change the gain on this. So what we're going to be looking for here are two things. We want to see symmetrical clipping at full volume, and symmetrical clipping means the left and the right, the top and the bottom of each waveform turns into a square wave at the same point. That is a function of what's called DC offset, and that's adjusted perfectly there. The top of the waveform and the bottom of the waveform are clipping perfectly. Okay, now what we're going to do is do a frequency response check. I'm going to set this to, it doesn't matter where I set it actually, but I like to put it in 0 dB. So let's go down. Oh, so that's 400 hertz. This is like 250. Should be the same, you know, it shouldn't vary much. There's 160. I don't know what that says. Probably 63. That's 40. And that may be 20. So let's go back to where we started from at 400, which is right there. And hopefully I'm not blocking a lot of this with my arms. Maybe if I do it, nah, that's not any good either. All right, so that's the next step up. Still, both channels are equal. Neither have changed. I'm increasing the frequency, and you can tell by the oscilloscope display how the sine waves, it's showing they're more and more, the period between peaks is getting more and more compressed as we increase frequency. And notice the bar graph is still on the money. It has not changed. Oh, maybe a half decibel or so. Right there, that's 4K. Let's see how much more we can go. Let's get that off of here. And someday we'll be able to afford a camera person. I think it's 8K. We're just continuing to go up, up, up. Where are we now? That is, that is 10K. Still pretty much flat frequency response. That's 12K. That's 15K. We're approaching the hearing range of dogs and bats at this point. Let me see where we are now. Oh, that is 18K. Still a flat frequency response. There we go. That's 20K, and that's all she wrote. So this is essentially flat across the entire audio spectrum. I'm going to bring it back down to 400 hertz where we started. And I don't know what I'm looking at here, but that's 3K. Okay, there's our 400 hertz. So now what we'll do is, whew, that's quite a frequency response. Let's get this off of there. Now what we'll do is go over to FM, and again, we're just using an indoor antenna. This is not going to be stellar performance. And turn the speakers back on. We'll start at the top end of the band here.
Para no morirme, que me des tu amor. ¿Para qué? Para no morirme.
How about that? It receives Spain too. All right, so let's bring this down. And you know what? Hopefully you can hear that.
Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. Here's a pair of overalls.
Riverdale Street in West Springfield and their customers during the Share the Love campaign.
Taking a look at targeting as we speak. Brendan Radley Isles.
Okay, I want to interject something here. Stereo's not on because this is sports station ESPN radio, and they broadcast in mono.
And you know, the temptation is to say
We're going down to the lower end here. Most of these are low power college stations.
from the scene showed one bus which was splattered with blood.
And there we go. So that's the end of the demonstration. An item has been resurrected from the dead, and it's quite a collector's piece.